Thank you very much. So what we actually have for everybody beforehand, before we actually go into the interview, is a video that we're actually going to share with you. So this currently is sitting on your careers website.
What Ofcom is trying to do is build the first regulatory regime to make the internet safer based on democratic value.
A regulator for everybody, it's not just a regulator for subsections of the community.
Ofcom's going to be regulating social media and search firms to ensure that everyone in the UK who uses the internet can lead a safer life online and to be protected from online harms.
The easiest way to think of it is what is the kind of content that is posted on platforms that could have some kind of harmful causal impact to people using those services? And it changes something for them. Maybe they change their behavior, maybe they think something differently, or maybe they take a really harmful action. But the idea of online safety is really trying to understand and capture what does that causal impact look like between online content and offline behaviors and actions.
What I was really surprised about when I joined was just how much stuff Ofcom does and is going to do once we start to get these additional powers.
I have a 2-year-old daughter, and thinking about what her experiences online are going to be like, especially compared to how I grew up. I didn't have access to the internet when I was a child, and that drives me to do the work that I do. I want to be able to make a difference to children online.
Technology changes every day, and it is going to be a real challenge to keep up to speed with that, and not only to do that but to try and think ahead and kind of think about the risks that maybe are not here now but they're emerging, they're on the horizon.
I'm still learning. Every day is something new and challenging. There's so much to learn when you're working across different industries and different sectors, and I think enforcement's role cuts across most of them, which makes my job very exciting.
Every single thing we do is designed to make life better for me, the people I know, everyone in the UK, and I think there's something really positive about having that as our guiding principle, our entire reason for going to work.
If we do this right at Ofcom, if we can give people a model for how to effectively regulate online content in a way that really is infused with democratic principles around human rights and free expression, we can actually be a model for the rest of the world.
What a great way to start, actually. So we're incredibly proud at Omni. I'm the managing director for Omni. I should say who I am, first of all. We're incredibly proud of the relationship that we have with you guys at Ofcom, which we started back in 2000 during lockdown. So I'm going to be interviewing Kerry. So would you mind doing a brief introduction to your role and who you are, first of all?
Yeah, sure. Morning, everyone. My name's Kerry O'Neill. I'm the People Director at Ofcom. I've been with Ofcom for coming up to 5 years. But prior to that, I've got experience of working in retail and financial services. And I'm also a non-exec director for an arts-based organisation as well. So hoping to bring, obviously, the Ofcom story to life for you. But I know there's lots of different backgrounds in the room today, financial services, retail and a charity sector here too. So hopefully we can have a good conversation this morning.
Brilliant. So shall we start with you describing the online safety bill and what impact that's had on your workforce planning and talent?
Sure. I mean, the topic here today is about diverse talent and hard to fill roles. And it really sort of came to life for me because online safety, which is the online safety bill, which is going through Parliament at the moment, is in the House of Lords stage right now, is a global first. It's the first regulation of the online sector in any sort of topic anywhere in the world. And so, of course, then online safety regulation here in the UK is also entirely brand new. And we talk about the fact that, you know, these are like the astronaut roles, you know, these are never been done before. These are newly constructed. These are literally brand new roles for our digital economy. And I'm sure many of you have roles like that. So those of you who have social media roles now, those of you who have Gen AI roles now, all of us are facing experience of having to hire roles that are literally digital economy based and therefore brand new. And so it's been really brought to life. The Online Safety Bill, obviously it's a government-led initiative, but should go live at some point, we never quite know, by the end of the year. So lots in that bill. I won't even like to describe it, but Ofcom is going to be the regulator for that bill. And it's Ofcom is referenced 800 times in that bill. So our duties and responsibilities in relation to that are vast. And that's what's informed the work that we've had to do with Omni over the last few years.
It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it? So on top of the challenge of having roles that have never existed before, can you describe the ED&I strategy as well and how that's actually been taken part of the entire objective?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what attracted me to the public sector, because I had been in the private sector exclusively over the last sort of 20 years up to that, was the challenge around online safety. Dame Sharon White, who was the chief executive of Ofcom, was sort of put me in role, and I was an odd choice because, you know, it's like, why does someone from the private sector, retail experience, come and join a public sector regulator? Well, that's because at that time, I think, you know, Sharon and the executive team could see that we were going to need to take a very different approach to get the people in to Ofcom that we needed. We were going to have to start to hire from places like Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc. And to give you some sort of context, online safety, the kind of the market that operates in is called the trust and safety market. There were 5,000 trust and safety roles advertised in the UK in 2020. There were 10,500 trust and safety roles advertised last year in 2022. So this is a rapidly growing field as online technology companies, TikTok, Snap, etc., start to think about safety on their platforms. However, in the UK, there are only 2,500 people with trust and safety experience. So 10,000 vacancies, 2,500 people doing those roles at the moment. So it's the actual literal definition of hard to fill. Now in Ofcom, we need around 400 of those people. So we are looking for almost, 20% of that entire pool to consider us. And of course, that's not realistic. That's not going to happen as much as we would love it. So we've had to think very broadly about the strategies to get those people in. But when we set out from the beginning, we made an early decision that we would take the opportunity to make sure that we were diverse by design. And we used that phrase to say to ourselves that what we don't want to do is rush, hire loads of people in, and then turn around and go, oh, everyone is white, male, middle class, etc. We want to, and then have to do lots of rectifying type activities, which is sort of where we are in things like our engineering sectors, etc., for lots of different historical, geographical kind of, sectoral reasons. But some of those sectors, it is more, kind of action to try and address an issue. So what we're trying to do and what we set out to do was make our online safety world diverse by design and take steps from the very beginning to make sure that we build a diverse team from the off. And so that's really part of our D&I strategy. Obviously, we're a public sector organisation, so it's really important for us that we represent the UK as fully as possible. And we have a really comprehensive D&I strategy in place. And Suzanne is here, you'll be speaking later, leads our D&I agenda at Ofcom to say more.
Brilliant, thank you. So thinking back to 2000 almost, when we started out on this journey, what needed to change, what needed to evolve with your TA strategy?
it was almost a case of what didn't need to change. I think first thing we needed to do was professionalize our recruitment function. So really going back to basics. We'd got very much into kind of habitual hiring practices. We had a very, very small recruitment team in the central HR function, in my function when I joined. And our first job was to very exciting. That is the theme tune to this journey, I think, actually, like the Mission Impossible sort of moments. So it's very apt. But professionalising our recruitment function and practices was step number one. Obviously, there's a nice segue here, because part of that we then partnered with yourselves, Louise, and we actually built D&I outcomes into our contract with you, which I think, was a bit different at that time. And we were looking for a partner that was going to work with us on some of these unknown questions. But our next big challenge is, most people don't wake up, particularly if they're in the tech sector, trust and safety sector, and go, oh, I really want to go and work for a regulator. We are... I've worked in insurance for nearly 12 years, so it's sort of you don't necessarily wake up and dream of being an underwriter when you're 7, and sort of the regulatory sector sometimes suffers the same fate, and so we've had to really reposition ourselves in the market that we're in. And this has been a whole Ofcom brand effort, but particularly around attracting the people that we needed for the bill. So we have, I thought it was brilliant, your slide, Scott, on the modern candidate experience, because all of those pillars, the comms, the branding, the experience, the diversity, the role modelling, and you've seen from the video some of our Ofcom staff, Jess Zucker, she's from Facebook. We attracted her from Facebook, but people like Shona, who came to us from the FCA. We've had to make Ofcom be a bit of a destination for all of those who either want to do something to make a difference in trust and safety, or want to work for what we think is the most exciting regulator in town.
We agree. So you've actually answered my next question, which is amazing. I love it when that happens. Thinking less about external attraction and internal mobility, what needed to change there, and how is that progressing?
Yeah, some of the stats that I laid out about the fact that it wasn't going to be possible for us to staff everyone we needed to staff from the trust and safety market. There's just no way that 20% of that market is going to leave their jobs in TikTok and come and work for us, although we've been really pleased with how many people from the platforms have joined us. We've got every major platform covered in our team. We've recently announced that Google's global online safety, child safety expert has left Google and is joining Ofcom this month. Has been really, really, really important. But what's been really exciting for us is how this has offered an opportunity to the staff within Ofcom now to train up and come and join the online safety team. So roughly about 60% of the initial roles that we had, particularly as this first phase of work has been about working with government on shaping the actual legislation. So it's kind of a core regulatory skill set that's been required there. We've been able to offer around 60% of those roles to our existing staff. So there's been a big internal mobility and shift. And it's actually been easier for us potentially then to hire some of those backfills and do it in a way that's brought diversity, because all our diversity metrics are up. We've got, we're more diverse than we've ever been across lots of the different protected characteristics. And so we've been able to bring that diversity by design thinking into our kind of more traditional bits of Ofcom, like our regulation of broadcasting and the BBC, some of our work around network and communications, telecommunications. So it's been an incredibly exciting opportunity for us. Not without challenge, though, because clearly we've got a big mix of people now in the online safety team. So people who've got no regulatory experience but have the tech sector trust and safety experience. But then we've got people who are from Ofcom, they know how to regulate, but they don't necessarily have the tech sector experience. So it's this big melting pot within the team at the moment. So as that team settles down, there's now lots of work going on culture, on sharing knowledge, on sort of upskilling around the key skill sets. So one challenge often then flows into another challenge, as I'm sure lots of people in this room would recognise.
Definitely. And that brings really nicely onto, we've talked about attraction of people, but these are roles that never existed before. So thinking about the selection of those people and needing to look at transferable skills. How did you go about that with skills-based hiring, I guess?
Exactly that. I mean, it's back to basics. You know, you can't go on the street and hire an online safety regulator anywhere in the world because they don't exist. And so you have to go back then to what's the core knowledge and skills. And we've had to be quite flexible. We've had people join us from the NSPCC, from Internet Watch Foundation, from people who have regulated before in the banks, for example. We've had to kind of sort of shut our eyes to not trying to find the perfect match each time, but to try and find the core skills around, if you haven't regulated before, are you willing to learn about what regulation means and kind of work within what is more of a regulatory regime? Because yes, even though the bill will give us the powers to potentially, fine 10% of global revenues to Google, which is very exciting because I think, you're thinking that is potentially in the billions. What we need to do is make sure that we work within the regulatory framework. So we need people who were able to show learning agility, I guess, curiosity, and a willingness to be humble. And that we'll always need to learn. So there has been quite a big skills component, but also quite a big kind of attitudinal component, and the two together have been the way in which we've seeing our way through.
Thank you. And we get to hear from James Crichton, who's sat staring at me right now. He's our head of assessment and he's working on a key project with you guys at Ofcom as well. So, and lastly, before we finish up, and if you do have any questions, please start to put them on Slido and we'll come to those in a second. Thinking about your brand toolkit. So we've worked a lot in terms of your EVP and attraction. Is there anything that you can share there about what's working and how that's come about?
Yeah, we did a big piece of work, and Ankita Jha is also in the room, who works for Ofcom. Suzanne and Ankita are like, oh, don't mention my name. I can see you both there, but you guys have done most of the work here. Kicked off a big piece of work to look at our employment brand, and we undertook work like how you construct any brand, I guess. Why work here? And we went and asked staff, why do you work at Ofcom? That was a brilliant exercise to do. We asked new joiners, we asked candidates, even those who didn't get the role, because we're very lucky that with very high ratings of the experience, which we thank Omni for, like often 9 out of 10 for the experience for people who even don't get the job, which I think is our real check. If you don't get the job, have you still enjoyed the experience? Asking all of those people why were you attracted there, and what it came down to for people was, is that line you saw at the end of that video is, if you come and work for Ofcom, you come and work on the issues that matter. You come and work on things that mean something to people. I mean, if anyone here around, has had difficulty online, has had, kind of exposure to challenges online, parents worrying about their children being online, etc. It's a very, very compelling purpose. And we're very lucky to have that, because that acts as the major attraction. And then there's been some other things that we've really pulled out of our experience of working at Ofcom. So our absolute massive focus on well-being, and kind of making sure that people have an inclusive environment. All of those are then pillars that we then make sure that we emphasise through the candidate experience. And I think, hopefully you saw that branding there, that we wanted to modernise that. We wanted it to look as good as any kind of cool business out there in the UK. We wanted to be able to match that standard. We knew if you've worked for Facebook or Google before, you're not going to come and join an Ofcom that looks like a sort of 1970s Yes Minister type setup. So we've tried to move where our applicants are, and it's it's really been paying off for us.
Absolutely. You're doing an incredible role. Are there any questions? I think there will be. Yay.